Big show today, everybody. We are talking about waiver wire week 9, and we're going to go through all of the positions here, highlighting the studs and duds and giving you the optimal pickups at each position, recapping the past week, latest news, notes, injuries, everything you need in this show in a fun delivery here for you. And on the show, we got the great and powerful Jimmy, who was off last week. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, Counselor. I'm glad to be back.
Excited to have you back, man. And we got so much to cover here. What a wild week. And so many people are now riding my guys. Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey. We're going to talk about that. Everybody's on the McConkey train. Don't be a donkey. Draft Ladd McConkey. And everybody's like adding Ladd McConkey now off the waiver, or they're trying to acquire him after that big week 8. Heading into week 9, we're going to talk about him and all these positions. So much to cover. Dude, where do we even start? I guess we'll start with the news and notes here. News and notes here. That's it. We'll start with there.
Yeah, don't forget Brian Thomas Jr. has just been killing it this season. He's been doing fantastic. So I want to mention him as well.
And that's what I want to talk about. It's like there's so much value at wide receiver. Romeo Dobbs, 9th round pick, right? Or whatever he was. Brian Thomas Jr., 9th, 10th round pick. Same with Keon Coleman, who's now emerged as the one. And like I said, man, I told you this when that trade happened, when Amari Cooper came there. It's like, this guy's old. He was on the team. He was in the league when the Oakland Raiders were around, dude. We're talking 2015. We're talking a decade ago almost, right? And in comes him now. He's going to draw the number one cover, the number one corner, and draw the coverage away from Keon and open things up. And that's exactly what happened. They love Keon, man. They invested high draft capital, and they're starting to use him. So, man, we got so much to talk about. I'm just excited, man. My teams are doing really well. Your best ball teams are crushing it. It's been a good year, but it's been a wild ride so far for a lot of people.
It is, and it really seems like the offenses are really starting to come on now at this time of the year. You know, it started out so slow, and clearly the early season jitters are kind of behind them at this point. They're getting into a groove, and it is nice to see these rookies really turning it on here in the middle of the season. That's kind of what you expect. It takes them a little while to get acclimated to the speed of the game at the pro level. But yeah, they're really starting to come on great. Keon Coleman was making some amazing catches yesterday. Really, and Ladd McConkey too. Both those guys, man. So congrats to all of them. They're doing great.
All right, start off with Breaking Brad here.
We now have breaking news.
So let's talk about some of the key injuries that happened over the weekend. And Jim, I think you've got a list of them. So I'll let you rip through them here because I think that's a big part of news now. And I do want to talk about the Anthony Richardson situation that's going on, which we'll get to in a second, how he walked off the field to take a breath. I want to, weigh in on that. But so what are some news and notes here in regards to injuries we got to be concerned about?
Now, we don't know the severity of these injuries, but they are certainly concerning. Jordan Love had a groin injury in the game. He left the game, did not come back. We don't know how long he's going to be out in that case. It's very disappointing for me and my Green Bay players that I have large shares of in my game. But also Drake May suffered a concussion, so he's probably going to be out at least a week. So as far as quarterbacks, you're going to want to find replacements for those guys. Likewise, no running back injuries of note, which was good to see. But wide receivers, we have Stephon Diggs went down with a knee injury. Brian Thomas Jr. suffered a chest injury. Gabe Davis, a shoulder injury, and Chris Olave, a head injury. Again, we don't know the severity of these injuries, but there could be some missed time with these guys as well.
I'm not really concerned. I just read Brian Thomas Jr. will have an MRI on. It's his ribs that are bothering him. Now, those rib things are nagging. So I've had them because I did MMA, and usually it's like a sharp pain in a located area, and it's excruciating. Like, it's like sometimes when you breathe, it hurts. And sometimes if you get a hit there, it's game over. Like, you're going to be on the floor in pain because it's excruciating. And the thing about rib injuries, you can't really heal them. So hopefully he's okay. He gets, he heals up, gets some padding there. And, it's going to be a concern a little bit for sure, but I'm not too worried about it at the moment. Other than that, really, the news here, I really want to talk about, what happened yesterday with Anthony Richardson. And I don't know if you saw that, Jim, he basically walked off on a play, tapped on his helmet. People thought he was hurt. Turns out he just wanted some air. I wanted breath. I'm out of breath. And when they asked him about it later, he's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, he doesn't care. Like, I don't know, man, this is your franchise quarterback. I would assume you have enough cardio to go play by play. I've never really seen a player saying, hey, hold on, I got to go get some breath, unless there's an injury involved. And Richardson, who's been sucking all season, is coming out and doing this. Not a good sign for the Colts. And this is your franchise quarterback. Yesterday, a passer rating of like 49 or something like that, 48.3 passer rating yesterday in that game. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And just his ability to make bad plays and just bad decision making. Terrible. I think there's this one play, Jim, they were in their own zone. I think it was like, I don't know, it was like 3rd down or something. And then he just threw a pick, and it was almost a pick six. I don't think it was a pick six, but it was 23 seconds in that quarter. Instead of managing the clock, maybe taking a knee or doing something, he pretty much threw a pick or something like that. And then they turned the ball over, and the Texans score a touchdown. So are you a little concerned about Richardson for fantasy and reality? What do you think on that, mentality-wise?
Well, clearly he was massively overdrafted in the draft this year.
Yeah.
We always knew that this guy was a project, and I'm not concerned about a guy coming off the field. It happens all the time. There's all sorts of substitutions that are happening during the course of the game, and especially after a big play, guy's out of breath. He needs to come off for a down or two, and that's a normal part of the game. So I'm not concerned about that at all. But yeah, I mean, again, he has just been extremely underwhelming. I mean, again, 12 and a half fantasy points. That's not going to cut it as a quarterback. Clearly, this is a guy that is probably going to be on your bench in favor of some other guys that went way after him that are doing much better, like Kirk Cousins, or Brock Purdy. Those guys had great games yesterday. So, I think this is just clear that he was massively overdrafted. I think he went off as like the QB 6 in most drafts this past year. Clearly not worth that, and he's going to be a lot lower in next year's draft for sure.
I told you not to draft him, and then when he was doing bad the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, I told you to drop him, and people somehow are still hanging on, and that's the thing, right? At this point, his value keeps going down, 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 and you can't really trade high because some people might still buy that preseason hype, right? Where he was ranked 5 as a quarterback, not the case. All right, so let's get into the quarterbacks here, Jim. Studs and duds and the must-adds at each position. So starting with the quarterbacks, we're going to honor the suck of the week at the quarterback position, which we probably already just talked about, but we're going to cover it. So guys that did really, really well, Jalen Hurts back into full form. Obviously, we saw that big pass to Devontae Smith. As soon as his receivers were healthy, he's been bouncing back. Bo Nix, Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy, Matt Stafford, and he's a waiver wire pickup if you guys need a quarterback. Stafford, if he's available in your leagues. Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Jameis Winston coming back. I mean, this was an upset. I can't believe Cleveland beating Baltimore. What an upset, man. Did you watch that?
That was a huge upset. That was very shocking when that happened. But, Jameis Winston, talk about a great pickup option. I think he's fantastic. He's going to sling that ball around, and he's got some good receivers around him. So I think they're going to be a much more effective offense than they were under, Deshaun Watson, who should just retire. The dude should just retire.
He sucks. I was
reading. And Bo Nix, Bo Nix was also fantastic, but it's important to note that was against Carolina, who is the worst team in the NFL right now. So how much of it is real? How much can you count on? I mean, 3 passing touchdowns, that's fantastic. A rushing touchdown, nearly 30 fantasy points. Absolutely outstanding. I would want this guy at least on my bench if he is available right now. I would add him for sure.
I want to make a point on that. Who were we talking about here? Jameis Winston. I read he had 334 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I think there was like some sort of stat that came out. Don't quote me if I'm wrong here, but it was like Deshaun Watson in his 19 starts. The meme came across my screen. He hadn't thrown over like 300 yards or whatever, 19 games and a win. I don't know. And Winston did it in 1 game. So it's like what Winston did in that game, Watson hadn't done for ever.
And and don't forget, they also got rid of Amari Cooper. They got rid of their number 1 receiver, and he went out there and did that. So, it's we know how absolutely terrible Deshaun Watson is. I mean, he just doesn't have it, man. He doesn't. He can't do it anymore. No. And I think it's probably because his shoulder is worse than most people think. But he is like not just bad, but historically among the worst quarterbacks in the NFL since about the year 2020, since he was in Houston. And so, you want to talk about one of the absolute worst contracts ever made for a player, and
Yeah.
it's the contract that Cleveland did. Apparently, that if they decide to cut Deshaun Watson, he's got a $72 million dead cap hit both in
Wow.
2025 and 2026. That was just completely kneecaps a team. But I mean, Denver bit the bullet and did it, and they're seen to be doing okay. I think they just need to cut bait and just start over.
Yeah.
They clearly, Watson's not going to ever be back to what they thought he was or what he has been.
Someone needs to be fired who made that decision. And I don't know why teams
Definitely
don't see this. I remember we go back to the Carson Wentz days for the Eagles. It was $128 million. That was before people started getting paid. Really, that was a big contract. And it's like, man, why'd you do that with Carson Wentz? And like, he turned out to be a bust. And I saw that. I could see this stuff. So why aren't teams seeing that the quarterback just isn't that good? So I don't know. Hopefully teams wake up. It's a waste of money. You could go feed the homeless for that price, do better stuff with it. Seriously, help people with that money. That money could go to stuff that could actually help people. Isn't it helping the team, right? It's not causing the team. Go help, do something positive, right?
you'd like to think so, but
Not gonna happen.
But yeah, I mean, it's like Deshaun Watson is done. He is just completely done. I don't know how they could put him back in as the starter, even once he gets healthy again next year. Why would you do that? Why would you do that to yourself?
No.
Don't do it. Just get it. Just go. You're going to have a really high draft pick this year. Get yourself another quarterback. Try to find your next franchise quarterback. And the irony also about them giving up Baker Mayfield. I mean, Baker Mayfield has been killing it this year, and it's just a delicious irony for Baker. I'm sure he's enjoying every single second of the pain that the Browns are going through right now.
Speaking of which, finishing 10th, excluding the Monday night game tonight, 10th amongst quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, to round out the top 10, including Trevor Lawrence at 9, Jameis Winston at 8, Herbert at 7, finally bouncing back, Lamar at 6. Stafford, Purdy, Cousins, Bo Nix, and Jalen Hurts at 1. Now, Josh Allen having a mediocre game here, around 20 points, give or take 19.8. The guys that crapped the bed here, I mean, CJ Stroud, 12.4 points, unacceptable. Geno Smith.
He's got, not only is he out his top receiver, Nico, who's still out on injured reserve,
Diggs
but, also losing Stephon Diggs. They're really depleted in their receiver core right now. So, I think that's part of it. That's part of his struggles.
Still, no excuses. 12.4 points. Not bad, I guess, compared to like a Geno Smith with 8.1. Jordan Love, who got banged up, 5.7 points. I would say he's a suck of the week. But Richardson, 11.5. Joe Burrow, 12.9. Just not good, man. Dak Prescott, 13.6. Dak Prescott throwing picks. That guy's a pick. Highest paid quarterback, and he's not looking good, man. No return on investment there for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys.
Definitely some buyer's remorse for sure. Yeah, Tua also coming back, only getting
14.7.
14.7. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. So
yeah, so
I mean, when Bryce Young does better than you, you had a pretty bad week.
So suck of the week has to go for me. I just don't like the mentality of Anthony Richardson, and I told you to drop him a long time ago. And CJ Stroud, those are kind of my two sucks of the week. Who are we picking up off waiver here? Other than I said Matt Stafford, is there anyone else to pick up off waiver here?
Well, again, we talked about Bo Nix, I think, is definitely worth a pickup. Also, we were talking about Mason. Oh no, I'm sorry. Jameis Winston, I think he's a fantastic pickup because that's a guy you could start. Mason Rudolph also was surprisingly good yet terrible at the same time. I don't know what was going on with that game, but he was making some great plays and then making some total bonehead plays as well.
Yeah.
But he got it done, man. 307 yards, 2 touchdowns. Over 20 fantasy points. Man, you can't ask for much more than that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong guy here. I'm sorry. It was 266 yards, 1 passing touchdown, along with 1 rushing touchdown, 29 rush yards.
Yes.
But 21 and a half fantasy points. Way to go, man.
He had that rushing touchdown, but he did have 2 interceptions, but still 20 points for Mason Rudolph. Pretty surprising stuff. All right, let's move on here to the running backs. Now, again, with this position, we talk about how slim and trim it is in regards to like going robust RB, making sure that you're set at this position, which I am. And I'm very grateful for doing that. And then look at the wide receivers that are emerging. But guys that did well, James Cook, Devin Achane, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, Joe Mixon, Kyron Williams, by Jan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Isaac Guerendo, because we had Mason injured, and DeAndre Swift, the top 10. Jonathan Taylor and Alvin Kamara to round it up if you include the 12. I do want to talk a little bit about Jahmyr Gibbs, man. Explosive run, and I keep talking about this, and people get angry because they stick up for Montgomery, and Montgomery's good. Montgomery sucks. When you like,
he doesn't suck, dude. How can you say that? How can you say that?
Okay,
they are both fantastic, best
No.
running back duo in the league.
No, if you contract, but every time you put Montgomery in, you are losing an explosive play with Jahmyr Gibbs. Every time you're taking that away. 11 attempts for Gibbs. Montgomery had 9 attempts. Out of those 9, that could have been another explosive home run hit for Jahmyr. Jahmyr Gibbs is far superior. He's explosive. And like, if I were that team, I'd be putting Gibbs out all the time. Or, that's it. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbs is clearly the better player. But to say that Montgomery sucks, I think is unfair, because I think he is. He has been playing extremely well. It's a fantastic offense, and he gets it done every week. I mean, he's not an RB1, but he's a solid RB2 every single week. That's great, especially where he was being drafted.
Okay, hold on a second. Jahmyr Gibbs, 11.5 yards per carry. And David Montgomery on 9 attempts, 3.7 yards per carry. I'm seeing a huge contrast. And
that's because Jahmyr Gibbs had that one 80-yard run.
Yeah,
I mean,
Montgomery doesn't do that. Montgomery doesn't have that ability. He'll do it once in a blue moon. But Jahmyr Gibbs, every time he touches the ball, if there's a little bit of an opening, he is running out for a big run. And I just think imagine how good Gibbs would be if Montgomery was not there. And that's what I hate, right? Because you're not going to see those Adrian Peterson type stats that you saw, Emmitt Smith type stats, because they're always going to be limited. Their ceiling is going to be limited by this committee approach now, which sucks for their careers, for fantasy. But in reality, I guess for teams, there's more preservation and durability, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, that's the way of the league now. There's hardly any just workhorses anymore. There's always going to be some guy behind him getting at least 30% of the work. So that's just the nature of the beast right now. But I think both. I mean, again, it's one of the best offenses in the NFL, one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and two guys that are both extremely effective and get a lot done with their usage. But again, it's about a 50-50 split with these two guys. But I'm fine with both of them. I think they're both great. They're both very effective, and they both have great games and they both have good games, so it just kind of depends. This past week, it was a great game for Gibbs, and Gibbs is the better player, but I don't think it's fair to say Montgomery sucks, because there are plenty of running backs out there who suck, and he's not one of them.
I want to see him on the field more. I want to see more Gibbs. All right, so let's talk about some guys that suck. Nick Chubb, 5.2 fantasy points. Dalvin Cook was elevated, and he didn't elevate anything. 3.2 fantasy points, absolutely sucked. Dalvin Cook, he had 6 attempts, 12 yards, 2 yards per carry, 3.2 fantasy points. Dalvin Cook, I told you he sucks. These people are washed up. I don't know why they bring him in. Jordan Mason, 1.8 fantasy points. That's disgusting, man. I know he got hurt.
I think he got injured, right?
I know, but
I'm sorry. That's an injury that I missed. Those Jordan Mason injuries. So Anyway, yeah.
Breece Hall, 9.9 fantasy points. Zeke Elliott, 10.8. Aaron Jones, 11.5. I guess guys, drop it below if I'm missing somebody here. But let's talk about, again, the suck of the week. First of all, I would say Breece Hall, man, 9.9 points. That's really unacceptable for a first-round pick. And you have Braylon Allen, who had 9.2 points. So he's a waiver wire pickup as well. So let's go to waiver wire here. Who are we picking up? Braylon Allen, I mean, he should be already on somebody's team at this point.
He should be, but he could still be on the waiver wire, But yeah, Braylon Allen for sure. I think Isaac Guerendo is absolutely an ad at this point, especially if Mason is going to miss some time. We got Tyler Algier, who got 12 touches. I know that's a sore point for you, counselor.
Yeah.
Hank Bigsby had 18 touches and 3 targets. That's unbelievable, man. But I think it's just because
Etienne's hurt.
Etienne is hurt. Yeah. And then you got Kareem Hunt, also Kansas City. You got 21 touches and a target. I'm like, how? What the hell? This guy is washed, and he's coming out and he looks really good. He's doing really good, and he's an old man. But
how about
12.8 fantasy points? That gets it done.
Zach Charbonnet only had 3 touches, nothing exciting there. I don't know if there's anyone else. I guess you could say Madison's getting a lot of work, 14 attempts. I mean, oh man, I think Zamir White looking terrible. terrible. I think he had like negative yardage on a couple touches. So that was my
Yeah, I
worst.
mean, I think you can just drop him at this point. I don't even
Oh,
see
I
any
dropped him
reason
in week.
to
I
keep him
dropped
on
him in
your
week
bench.
4. He's been gone a long time ago. But Alexander Madison, definitely another guy. Anyone else for running backs we want to pick up? Nothing.
Those were the ones that most stood out to me. So
Bucky Irving finished 16th, excluding the Monday night game here. 15.4.
oh right, Bucky Irving, yes,
If you're
yeah, he looked pretty
interested.
good. He looks really good, man.
Yeah,
So
Bucky Irving. And then Jaleel McLaughlin as well. 8 attempts, 5.9 yards per carry, had 12.6 fantasy points. Jaleel McLaughlin.
yeah, that's not enough volume for me to want to grab a guy. Jaleel has not done much this season, so
No.
way too inconsistent to trust. So
All right, let's move on to the wide receivers here. And wide receivers, man, oh man. How about my guys? Lad McConkey. Let's go through it here. Lad the Donkey McConkey. CeeDee Lamb and Lad McConkey finishing on top. Cedric Tillman, I knew he'd have a good game because he kind of showed that last week, and they've got nobody else there in Cleveland. Cedric Tillman, 28.9 fantasy points, having 2 tutties. Marvin Harrison Jr. is back in action. Calvin Ridley, I know, Jim, I had him in one league. I think you had him in
Calvin
another.
Ridley.
Oh, man.
Again, I started Calvin Ridley in week 5 or week 6 and week 7. He got like 1 point each of those weeks. It cost me to lose my games in the games that I started him on. So I benched him. And of course I bench him and he goes off like this. I'm like, I don't even know what to do. And it was with it was with Rudolph, right, as his quarterback, which is good. But when Levis comes back, is he just going to go back to not doing anything because Levis sucks? Because Levis can't play football. I don't even know. I mean, it's just like such a hard situation to want to trust, but it is, good situation. Again, he continues to get really great volume. He got 10 targets yesterday. He got like 9 the week before and 8 the week before that. He's getting the volume.
15 targets.
At least he did something with it.
15 targets, 10 receptions. That's a lot of targets, man. Number 1.
Oh, 15 targets. You're right. I'm looking at the wrong line there. Yeah, 15 targets. That's crazy.
CeeDee Lamb.
But of course, I had him on my bench in all my leagues. All my leagues, he was sitting on my bench.
CeeDee Lamb was 17 targets. It's the only guy that saw more this past week, just so you know. And I mean, this is what we're talking about. This is why you got to draft guys that are high on the depth chart with minimal committees. And you're starting to see that now. Like Harrison seeing the targets here, Ridley seeing the targets. Josh Downs having a good week. Devontae Smith having that big touchdown, 20.5 points. Jamar Chase, Darnell Mooney, Khalil Shakir to round the top 10. Shakir just getting targeted a lot. 10 targets, 9 receptions, 107 yards. He looked like the wide receiver 1 this week, but it was Keon Coleman that had that nice touchdown and finishing 15th just to put it in contrast. 18 fantasy points for Keon Coleman. But Lad McConkey and Coleman, this is what I'm talking about. These are the guys that I got on my teams. I didn't have to invest early. I got my Saquon, I got my Henrys, got my Byjans early, and then went with the Brian Thomas Jr.'s, the Lad McConkeys, and Keon Coleman's. They're emerging. I mean, you got to look at the situation. You got to look at the landscape. You got to look at the quarterbacks. There's a ton of volume for these guys. They're finally coming into their own. It took 8 weeks to really get in the groove, but they're here. They've arrived, Jim. I'm really excited about my guys here, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the volume is okay. I mean, Lad McConkey only had 6 targets yesterday, which is, kind of suboptimal, but he's been very effective with what he got. So that's great. And, I think Keon Coleman, he got 7 targets, which obviously is pretty good. But I'd like to see these guys with 8, 9, or 10 targets a week. That's what I'd like to see. So get him more involved. Come on, coaches.
All right, let's talk about the suck of the week here at each position. Tank Dell, 13.5, better than last week. I knew he'd get a touchdown this week. Sure enough, I believe he did. Who else is here that sucks this week completely?
Romo Dunze's really kind of sucking this year, man.
I didn't expect much out of him. Honestly. I really like being the wide receiver 3 on that team, and I had a rookie quarterback. I wasn't expecting. A lot of people loved him. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8.7 fantasy points. That's really disappointing for a first-round pick. Drake London, 7.4. I do want to highlight this point here that everybody and their mother told you Christian Kirk was the one, and he was coming off around 3 to 4 rounds ahead of Brian Thomas Jr., and he's out for the season. And he was sucking before that. He was never a true one, yet the mainstream sheep told you him, he's the one. And they also told you that Curtis Samuel was the one, when we know that these guys have had years to wow us and we're not wowed. And you got the alphas coming in. Yet the mainstream, this is why, guys, you have to listen to this channel, because we don't draft based on ADP. That's not how you win your leagues. Christian Kirk was not the one. Curtis Samuel was not the one, but that's what everybody told you. So we're seeing who the ones are. It's all coming out of the woodwork, Jim. It's all coming out now.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, let's talk about how terrible Devontae Adams has been. You know, he only got 7.4 fantasy points. Still has yet to score a touchdown. They're still trying to rekindle that magic with a depleted Aaron Rodgers. It seems like it's kind of done for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. I haven't seen anything out of him that's been like blowing me away. I got to see him live, and he was not good in that game against the Steelers last week. So I don't know. I think it's like retirement time after this season's done for him. I don't think there's anything more in that tank. So
I got him in PPR 9.4 fantasy points for Adams. It was Garrett Wilson who was the alpha, by the way. 8 targets, 5 receptions for Garrett Wilson. 6 targets, 4 receptions for Adams, and 9.4 fantasy points. So what I've got listed here for him. You said 7 points. So maybe
I think I'm looking at half PPR here. I think that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, so I would say Tyreek Hill 13.2, a little bit better, but still not first round, worthy there. So Romeo Doubs only 10.2, a little disappointing there. But again, Drake London, I would say at the 7.4 is very disappointing. And you said Devontae Adams, very disappointing. So a couple sucks there. Jordan Addison, man, 4.2. Again, that's why I tell you, don't draft wide receiver 2s on their team. I think it was Addison that did a post and he said free 3. Is that his number? Addison number 3? I think it was him. He's like free 3, but like, don't you realize you're on the team with Justin Jefferson? He put it in his story mode, free 3, whatever his number was, like free, like he wants to be free. He's not getting the volume, and he's not. Sorry to tell you, man, but you're on the team with Justin Jefferson. I also want to make a point here as well is Michael Pittman had a terrible game as well, 2.6 fantasy points. And Tyler Lockett, 1.9. All these guys were drafted ahead of guys like Ladd McConkey and Keon Coleman. Where are they now? Where are the sheep now? Right? Where are they? I don't hear anybody right now. Apologize.
Right. Hey, I think the lone exception to your not being the wide receiver 1 is Darnell Mooney, who has been doing fantastic with Kirk Cousins. He's been doing outstanding. What a deal he was on the draft board. I remember taking him late in tons of drafts. He has been absolutely outstanding. And we know Kirk Cousins can absolutely support 2 really good wide receivers on the same team. He did it for years with Justin Jefferson and
I got a Thielen.
Yeah, Thielen. Yeah. So he's just doing it again, but this time with Mooney. So it's great that Mooney's there. And if he's available for pickup, I would get him. All right. He's probably not though at this point. So
let's go through the waiver wire. Who are we picking up here at waiver wire?
Well, I think the number 1 has got to be Cedric Tillman, man. 9 targets, and he clearly has a great connection with Jameis. So I think that's absolutely a top priority pickup. We got Josh Downs, who got 9 targets. Darnell Mooney with 7 targets. Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy. We got all the Cleveland receivers. I think they're all worth a pickup right now as we kind of sort out to see who's going to become the number 1. Elijah Moore actually got 12 targets, more than Cedric Tillman, but Cedric Tillman was much more effective with what he got. So I'm inclined to think that Tillman's going to get the majority of the looks from Winston. So
how about
those are the guys I would look at.
Noah Brown, who caught that Hail Mary pass, which was absolutely wild. Did you see that Hail Mary pass? Oh my God, from Jaden Daniels. Wow. So, I mean, Noah Brown could be a consideration. He actually had 6 targets, man.
He did. He had 6 targets. Wow. I guess I didn't go down far enough on the list. I usually kind of look at about 7 targets as my minimum for a wide receiver. To be someone that I am really interested in. But that is certainly right on the borderline there. Someone worth storing on your bench. I don't know if I would start him, but he could definitely be worth something. And then I don't even know who else is at Houston right now behind Tank Dell. But next man up, I mean, if we're still a few weeks away from having
John
having the receivers back.
It's
Mechie, there you go.
John Mechie had 4 targets, 3 receptions, and then there's Robert Woods there, Xavier Hutchinson, which didn't get much work. But John Mechie could be a pickup as well. But again, if you're desperate, deeper leagues, go for it, All right,
Sure.
let's move on here to the tight ends now, and then defenses. We'll rip through the last little part here. Should be easy to do. Tight ends, I'm not gonna. I always say this. I sound like a broken record, but it's for a reason. With tight ends, I don't expect much. I got my Ferguson, and I just start him, and I get my 10 points. I'm a happy person. Kate Auden though, man, just tearing it up, and this was kind of to be suspected. Because with Godwin and Evans out, someone's got to step up. And man, oh man, did he. 10 targets, 9 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Wow. Cade Auden. I don't even know if he's available. I bet you he's available in some leagues. I guarantee it.
Yeah, he probably is sitting on the bench on some, if you only
Yeah.
have 15 or 16 players, I could see him be sitting on the bench. But, he's real up and down, real inconsistent. But yeah, as long as these top 2 receivers are out, I think he is a fantastic choice. I've always been surprised that he hasn't developed a larger role in that offense. This is his 3rd season, I think, because I think he deserves a lot more work, and he's not getting it. But how about Zach Ertz? Old man Ertz.
Yeah.
11 targets, 7 catches, 77 yards yesterday. It was National Tight End Day yesterday, and the tight ends were absolutely ripping it up. I mean, from as dead as they were early in the season, they really have started to come up really well, and it's nice to see it. Sam Laporta, 6 targets, 48 yards, and a touchdown. Awesome. Travis Kelce looking like old-time classic Kelce yesterday, man. 10 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. Absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, this was expected with Laporta, with Jameson Williams being on suspended, so that performance enhancing. So I thought that Laporta would get an uptick in volume there. Suck of the week here, Cole Kmet, 4.4 fantasy points. Dawson Knox, 7. They're really, I have low expectations for tight ends. Like Brock Bowers had like 10 points. He's 18th in, amongst tight ends, excluding the Monday game. So I'm not really expecting much out of the tight ends. Really, I'm just not. So when they have a bad game, it's like, okay, yeah, it kind of happens, It is.
Yeah, it's still extremely volatile and very low volume. I mean, this week was a little bit of an anomaly with we had 4 tight ends which had 10 or more targets. That is, I don't think that's been seen yet this season. And I don't know if that's really so much a trend or if we're just going to go back down next week. Maybe it was just because it was National Tight End Day. They wanted to give the tight ends some big splashy plays.
They got him some love. Like Will Dissly for the Chargers had 7 targets, 5 receptions. Is he a waiver wire pickup? Probably not. I'm going to put him in here as one. Geno Smith.
Yeah, I got him in as a waiver wire pickup. I got my waiver wire pickups are Zach Ertz, Cade Otton, Mike Gesicki. The Cincinnati tight end is always involved with the offense and can be great on bye weeks, and I think Mike Gesicki is just the next one in line for this season. And again, he got 8 targets yesterday. But I think that's absolutely the kind of guy that you would want to pick up, keep on your bench for the bye weeks if you need that. So,
okay, defenses to start. What defenses are we starting this week?
All right, so I was looking at the lineups, and again, I just like to stream defenses. So these look like the best matchups for Week 9. The Bengals are playing Las Vegas at home. I like that. New Orleans is at Carolina. That's going to be great. I mean, they're going to do really good. And then we've got New England playing Tennessee. And I think both these defenses are great options because neither of these offenses are particularly good, and they make lots of mistakes. There's lots of turnovers, fumbles, and the such. So there's points to be earned here. So I like both New England and Tennessee as a streaming defense this next week.
Man, we covered a lot here. Unbelievable. Guys, smash it, tap it, slap it, hit the thumbs up. Drop any questions you may have about the waiver wire here. It was a lot of fun, man. It really was a lot of fun today, Jim. And yeah, I'm excited for the future of the rest of the year, man. I really am.
As am I. Yeah, it's I mean, it's getting better. That's the thing that really relieves me is that some of those offensive struggles appear to be kind of behind these teams. These teams are really starting to come on as we expected them to with their offense. So that's nice to see. Maybe we need to play these starters a little bit more in the preseason so they come out hot instead of like coming out ice cold week 1 and then it taking like 4 weeks to get up to speed. I don't know.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Make sure you smash it, tap it, slap it, follow on all my social media channels, and have yourself a great day. Thanks, Jim. We appreciate everybody.
All right. Thank you, counselor. Have a good one,
We're out.
everybody.
We're out.